Morning again, monkeys. John from Yorkshire Monkey. Right, Grimsby Live. This is from December 2020. So, from catching killers to a career in tatters, the fall of a cop who was racist to one of his own officers. Sacking sends shockwave through Humberside Police. For a police career carefully built over 21 years, it came crashing down in seconds, and when it did, the reaction of sacked Detective Stuart Miller betrayed his shock and anger. As soon as the words instant dismissal were read out by the Humberside Police misconduct panel, Miller leapt to his feet and stormed out, leaving the panel still presenting their findings. This weekend, former Detective Chief Inspector Miller's career is in tatters, racist comments condemning him to a shameful departure from a force he has served with for more than 2 decades. The sacking also leaves Humberside Police without one of their most senior detectives, a man behind some of the most high-profile murder and rape investigations in recent years. There he is. Don't look right happy, does he? Built, but in an era of Black Lives Matter and intense scrutiny of the police and public institutions, it also underlines the seriousness with which police now appear to be challenging racism in the ranks. The sacking of one of its most senior officers has sent a shockwave through the ranks. Any officer from PC to top brass is now under formal warning. Humberside Police have drawn a line in the sand, and an evidence of racism will be a career ender. The shifting culture seemed to catch Miller unawares, but it is never likely, certainly when it became very public, that he was going to survive the more gross misconduct charge after describing a fellow officer who was black as chalk ice and more white middle class than I am. For Miller, a policeman who had doggedly risen through the ranks from beat constable in Scunthorpe to become a detective chief inspector, successfully hunting killers, rapists in Hull and Grimsby, it was an unfamiliar role of tackling the COVID crisis when his racist outburst condemned his career to the scrap heap. It was June 8th in the major incident room at Birchwyn Way Police Station in Grimsby, and Miller was in his new position as a specialist command officer for coronavirus when he was approached by a colleague, a detective inspector on behalf of a junior officer. Dopey. 15% of all COVID-19 deaths were from BAME backgrounds, and the Health Secretary Matt Hancock had confirmed urgent research was underway to find out why. As a result, the wife of the black officer serving with Humberside had raised fears about whether her husband should be shielding as a vulnerable member of the BAME community. She was also worried about the risk of the virus being passed on to their sons. When the DI approached Miller for guidance, he replied saying, "He isn't fat or diabetic, he has a good job so doesn't fit into the category. In fact, he is as close to white as he can be. In fact, he's a chalk ice." He added, "He's probably more white and middle class than I am." For a seasoned detective used to choice language as part of their daily routine, it was, however, a comment dripping in racist undertones. At the time, Miller, for all his prowess as a detective, appeared to be proving a challenge to manage for senior officers. Described as an exceptional and experienced officer, 4 months earlier he had successfully solved a long and challenging investigation involving the appalling rape of a young woman dragged off the street in Grimsby by a fairground worker. A month before that, in December 2019, Miller had also secured the conviction of one of the men involved in the brutal murder of Sean Lyle in a Cleethorpes flat, and was continuing the hunt for a prime suspect, a known drug dealer, Abdi Ali, who had gone on the run. It marked a progressive career which has seen him pound the beat as a constable in Scunthorpe, work as a sergeant in Hull, before rising to the ranks to join CID and start working on complex and serious criminal investigations. But his career was not, as a misconduct panel heard, unblemished. In February, he received disciplinary sanction for 2 matters of disreputable conduct which have not been made public. Despite his success as a senior detective, his behaviour had clearly caused concern. When the alarmed junior officer reported his chalk ice comments to senior officer, Miller was immediately suspended. The subsequent investigation was conducted by Humberside Police's Professional Standards Department, which Miller had once led. That led to charges and finally the 2-day misconduct hearing in Goole this week. Presenting the case against Miller, Olivia Checker-Dover urged the panel to dismiss him without notice and said that there was no room for racism at any rank. Miller was told that the racism had been unconscious, but he had been guilty of a serious act of discrimination which incredibly damaged to the public perception of the police. His defence had been awkward and unconvincing. Even though he admitted calling his fellow officer a chalk ice, he claimed he had only found out what it meant. He claimed it had been an off-the-cuff comment and he was not racist, and challenged over what he meant by saying white middle class. He said he should have said. He said he shouldn't have said it, but 90% of the population would put the term white before middle class. His representative asked for the option of a demotion or warning instead of dismissal. There you go. Another one gone. You are dismissed, sir. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think down below. Catch you soon.